Dear students, I Amol Sharma, teacher from Department of School Education Jammu, welcome you all in DSEJ Tele classes. Students, today we will start another short story of your English, and the name of this short story is Dusk. But first, let us see the learning outcomes of this short story, that what will you learn after going through this short story. So very first is that after going through this short story, you will be able to understand the meaning and concept of the title. You will find out why the author has given out this title. Students, this lesson will also help to increase your vocabulary. You will learn new vocabulary words from this chapter. After going through this lesson, you will be able to understand the themes of this lesson. It will also improve your listening and writing skills. And last but not the least, this lesson is going to be very helpful in your grammar work as well. Now students, as I told you that the title of this short story is Dusk. No, dusk means the time of the day when the light has almost gone, but it is not yet dark. The story has also been placed in this very time. So, before starting this story, let us know something about its author. Students, this short story is written by Hector Hughes Munro. He was born on 18th December 1870 and he died on 14th of November 1960. He is better known by the pen name Saki. Now, pen name is the assumed name used by the writer instead of their real name. So many writers, they do not disclose their real name. They used to write the stories through their assumed name. So Saki was the pen name of Hector Hughes Munro. He was a British writer. He is considered by English teachers and scholars as a master of the short story. Students, the main characteristic of his short stories is that his stories are always end in surprising ending. So they are full of twists and turns. And I hope you are really going to enjoy this one as well. But before going through this short story, I would like to ask you a few questions, and I would appreciate if you write these answers on your notebooks and share them with your teachers and friends as well. So students, my very first question is, have you ever helped any stranger? Means you have, stranger mean an unknown person, not your friend, not your relative. So have you ever helped any stranger and later thought if what you did was right or wrong? That after helping, you thought that whatever you have helped him or her, whether it was right or wrong, that whether you should have helped him or her or not. So you need to answer this. And my second question is, have you ever been cheated by a stranger? Mean you have helped some stranger and later realize that that stranger had cheated you. So have you ever been cheated by a stranger? And last question is, what were your thoughts when you realized that you have been fooled, that you have been cheated? So after helping a stranger, you realized that you had been cheated by him or her. So what were your thoughts? So students, write down all these answers on your notebooks and share it with your friends and teachers, and I hope you all will get the very amusing, very funny answers. Now, the question might be have been arised in your mind that why I am asking all these questions during this short story. So after going through this short story, you will able to understand that why I had asked all these questions, because these questions are related somewhere with this story. Now let us begin the summary of this short story Dusk. Now, the leading character of this short story, Dusk, is a young man. I mean, not a young man, is a man who is in his 60s or 70s, called Norman Godsby. He was sitting on a bench in Hyde Park. Hyde Park is a famous park in London. So he was observing people around the park and concludes that everyone had lost the battle of life, that everyone is in distress. Now, students, as I told you that as it the title of the story is dusk, mean late evening. So it is about 6:30 in the evening, and dusk has fallen heavily on the scene. Dusk is not on the physical level alone; it is on the mental and spiritual level as well. So those who come to the park at this time of the day have reached the dusk of their life, means they have reached in the 60s or 70s. They are those who have been defeated in their life. They are those who are no longer wanted or needed anywhere. So on seeing these people, he concludes that everyone had lost the battle of life, and they were isolated and dejected by the society, and they require some me time, that they need to spend a time, they wanted to spend some time with themselves, and that is why they are in the park and do not know what to interact with. And so he was observing the people. An older man came there, he sits next to him on the bench. He is very well dressed, respectable gentleman. So on closer inspection, however, it becomes clearer that he is from the pitiful, unpopular orchestra. He looks like a depressed old man who can barely afford where he lives. So as the old man sitting beside him gets up, a young man replaces him on the bench and seemed to be troubled and unhappy. So when the old man walks away, a young man came there. He sat there. He was in, you can say that he seems to be frustrated. He seems to be troubled and unhappy. So Godfrey, because of curiosity, he asked him the reason for his unhappiness. So Goatsby asked him why he seems so disappointed, why he is so unhappy. So that young man turned towards him and told him that he had traveled to Berkshire Square to stay at the Pentconian Hotel, and after reaching that hotel, he had come to know that the hotel had been demolished by the government, and now the taxi driver had took him to the different hotel, and he steps out with enough money to buy himself a drink and a bar of soap. And now he doesn't know where he is staying and cannot go back because he had spent all the money. No, he did not have any money, and he had also lost the way to the hotel, and he wanted some kind man to help him to give him some money so that he could have a taxi to that hotel so that he could go back. But Goodsby was not ready to believe him and asked him to produce the cake of soap, and he asked him for cake of soap. Now the young man is aware that his story sounds like a scam, and he know that he told Godsby that he knew that he is not going to believe his story, but he is telling a real story. But Godsby was not ready to believe in his story. He thinks that the man is telling some made up story, so he asked him to produce this so-called soap that he bought. The man searches his pockets but cannot produce it. He claims he has lost it. Knowing that Godsby doesn't believe him, he leaves. He thinks that Godsby is not going to believe in his story as he is not able to produce the soap cake that he told him that he had bought. So he told him that he had lost the cake, and Godsby is not going to believe him, that he is not going to help him. So young man thinks that it is better to leave that place. So he leaves that place and went away. Now, after that, the young man went away, and Godsby was also thinking of going away. So, while leaving the bench, he found a small packet of newly bought cake of soap. So, the Godsby sees that when he spots a bar of soap on the ground, he realized that he thought that it might the young man was not lying after all. It had fallen out of his pocket when he sat down on the bench. So Godsby starts to look for the young man and finds him on the very busy street. He found the man and gave it to him along with a gold coin worth a pound. And he also apologized for his earlier disbelief. He said that he should believe in his story, so he apologized for his earlier disbelief. The man thanked him and went away. So man took the money, took the soap from the Godsby. He thanked him and went away. So then Godsby started returning back to the bench, and he lectures himself about how he should be less judgmental of the people. Now Godsby returned to the bench with a feeling of content, feeling of happiness that he had helped a man who was in trouble. Means from this you can say that Godsby was a kind person. He is a clever person who found the weak point in the story, and after realizing when he found the cake of soap, he realized that it might have fallen from that young man. So he returned back the soap and also gave him some money, and now he has a feeling of content, he has a feeling of happiness that he had helped someone, he had helped some stranger. So just then he spots the old man who had been sitting next to him earlier. With the as the opening scene, I told you that an old man was sitting with Godsby on the bench, and when that old man went away, the young man came there. So it was the same old man who was sitting there next to him earlier, and he was looking for something. He asked if he had lost something. The man replied that he was looking for a cake of soap. No, I think this is the end of the story, and I think the Goatsby might beat his head because now after listening these words he might have been realized that he had been deceived by the young one. He might beat his head, he might be laughing at himself. So this is the surprise ending of the story. Here the author doesn't tell us that what was his thinking after he has realized that he has been befooled by a stranger, that he has been deceived by the stranger. Now, students, as I told you that the short stories of Saki ends in a surprising ending. So this is all about this beautiful short story. I hope you might have enjoyed it at all. Now, students, what do you think just happened? So, do you think Goswami felt angry or sad when he realized that he had been fooled? So now I think you might have understood that why I had asked those three questions before the beginning of the story. So here in this story you find that Goatsby helped a stranger and later on he realized that he had been cheated by the stranger. So that's why I asked those questions that have you ever helped a stranger and been cheated by the stranger, and what would be your thoughts when you realize that you had been cheated by the stranger? So that's why I ask all those questions before the beginning of this short story. Now moving to the next part of this short story is the character sketch of Norman Godsby. Now, students, Goatsby is judgmental and annoying. He feels frustrated in his life and he doesn't not do anything to make up for it. So he is judgmental, mean he while sitting in the park, he tries to judge the other people. He thinks that all those people might have reached the dusk of their life and they do not have anything to do. They don't know why they are sitting in the park. So he tries to be judgmental. And he has a lot to learn about human nature and reality. Means all you cannot judge a book from its cover. So he tries to judge the people from their look. So he needs to learn about human nature and reality. A young man who seems to be a disappointed person, he befooled him, he cheated him. So he needs to learn about human nature and reality. He is quite an observer of humanity. He sees life as a struggle. Thinks that life is a struggle. Everyone is struggling there, and those who are defeated or dejected by the society, they are in the park at that time. He is too oversmart in judging people, especially during a difficult situation. So after listening the story, he finds the weak points and he tries to be the judge of that very situations. So he is too oversmart in judging people. He is not at all a man of leisure. He means he does not want to spend his time in leisure. He wants to do something in life. Moreover, as I told from this story, you can also conclude that he is a kind person. He's a kind-hearted person as well. He is the one who himself being sat upon during the dusk time judges others. He was also sitting there at that dusk time and being in the park along with the other people who might have reached the dusk of their life, he tries to be the judge of others. By his behavior, we come to know that he considers himself as a philosopher or a judge. He is confident, self-reliant, and can take good care of himself. And sometimes his overconfidence proved his correct answers wrong. So while listening the story of that young man, at the initially he realized that the young man is trying to fooling him, but later on he proved to be overconfident. He proved himself as the wrong person. So means you can say that he was very overconfident. He is intelligent and experienced, mean he could not be fooled easily by others, but he is somewhat reactionary in his views. So this is all about the character sketch of the main character of this story, that is Norman Godsby. Now moving to the another part of this lecture, we have some frequently asked questions here. So very first question is, what was the atmosphere at the Hyde Park? Now it was the early March evening, it was the 6:30 p.m. and the atmosphere was not so dark because of the moonlight and the street lamps. Now although it is 6:30 late in the evening, but yet it was not dark. Over the road and sidewalk there was a wide emptiness, and yet there were many people moving silently in the half light. So as I told you that this dusk is not on the physical level alone, it is on the mental and spiritual level also. So those who come to the park at this time of the day have reached the dusk of their life. They are those who have been defeated in their life. So we can say that the atmosphere all around the park was dusky. Then we have next question. How did Norman Godsby feel when he realized he had been fooled? The story doesn't tell us how Godsby felt when he realized that he had been fooled. But I think he must have felt very, very silly. We cannot say that he had been fooled. The young man had no doubt tried to fool him, but he was not fooled. He knew from the very beginning that the young man was telling a made up story. He at once found the weak point in the young man's story, but the same weak point fools Godsby himself. He goes running to find the young man, gives him not only the cake of soap but also some money. And when he comes to know of the real thing, he can do nothing but beat his head and laugh at himself. Then we have another question that bring out the elements of irony in the story. Now students, irony is a contradiction of expectations between what is said and what is meant, or what is expected in a particular circumstance and behavior. So in the story Dusk there is irony. It is ironic that the main character, who believes himself to be a good judge of character, gets deceived by the young man who shared the park bench with him. The elderly gentleman loses his cake of soap. He loses it at the same place where soon after a young man came, and he also weaves in his story an incident of the soap. Lastly, Goatsby running to find the young man and give him the soap that never was his. So all these elements are the irony in the story. Now students, this is all about this short story along with the character sketch and the question answers. Now students, I have a home assignment for you. I want you to write all these answers on your notebooks and get them checked by your teachers or subject teachers. So here we have some phrases, and you are required to use these phrases in sentences of your own. And I would appreciate if you do not take the sentences from this textbook. You need to frame your own sentences. So very first phrase is youthful figure. Second one is shabbily dressed. Third is pale moonlight. And fourth is wandering about. So use these phrases in your sentences. And second question is, do you approve of the behavior and approach of Godsby in the story? Explain. So, do you think whatever Godsby had done was right or wrong? So, do you approve the behavior of Godsby? So, you need to write all these answers on your notebooks and get them checked by your teachers. Now, students, this is all about this short story titled Dusk. I hope you might have enjoyed this short story. With this, I would like to means I would say that very soon we will meet with another lesson of your English. Till then, stay home, stay safe. Thank you.